Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Tuesday. It's July 23rd, 2024, and it is officially Leo season. So happy birthday to all the lions and lionesses out there. Thank you for your royal, fierce feline energy. We all need it, whether we want it or not, and you don't care, right? Because you're going to give it anyway. No, we're grateful for Leo season. Happy birthday to all. Hope you enjoy the celebration of a new year of life, another year of life. And we're going to jump right into it. Yeah. Two of Cups. Two of Cups, a contract, a commitment, an agreement, an exchange, an emotional exchange. Could be platonic, could be intimate, could even be professional with a deep-rooted understanding. You know, two people on the same page in a very deep way. And we got the Six of Swords. Oh, I like the idea of okay. I like the idea of crossing over into balanced contracts or balanced understandings here. Usually with the Six of Swords, we're talking about moving from one experience to a favorable one, more peaceful, calmer, balanced existence. So maybe a new relationship or a relationship that's going to that's evolving, perhaps, or maybe a balancing out or a settling out in some way that perhaps maybe experienced some disconnection, or where two people may not have necessarily been on the same page or seeing eye to eye, some disagreements perhaps, or just a lack of synergy in some way, shape, or form. There's a crossover moment here. Maybe some healing has occurred. Ooh, on both accounts. Because you certainly wouldn't have two people on the same page in any, distant place or space unless they both have undergone some type of change or evolution or healing, or, something would have to be transformative for both. Usually it wouldn't just be one over the other for there to be agreement here. So that's interesting. What's the High Priestess about? Ooh, with the Queen of Swords. You know what? I'm getting something else now too. It could very much so be two people. But what I also skipped out on sometimes is with the Two of Cups, it could be coming into like renegotiating terms, or coming into a new agreement with yourself. If you've been in two minds particularly about anything, or have been kind of stretched thin, or feeling like you've been pulled in two different directions, perhaps between your logical senses and maybe your more intuitive senses. I love the star here, which is kind of pouring out both in the water and in the earth, which more or less represents those two elements or those two ideals. So it could even be that, if we want to take the partnership out of it, coming to terms with the spirit and truth of your matter, of your matter or of matters. Yeah, and look at this with the Two of Swords pulled in two different directions. But I love how the Queen of Swords is here as, you know, the progressive move forward, because that's a determination and objectivity. That's somebody that is not at all ignorant or unaware, certainly not afraid to make a decision or come to a conclusion about any particular thing. They're quite clear-minded and very intelligent, well-informed, as a matter of fact, insightful, and okay, this is insight and foresight with the High Priestess. So being clear about where you stand as you are, you know, in a practical sense, but maybe also having some projective perspective of what hasn't even occurred yet, and being able to combine those two facilities, well, those two faculties, I should say, as one power, or in one, what's the right word? As one, I don't know, it's like a tool. Not a talent. Not a talent, what would it be? Not a trade. I guess an ability? And this is very watery with the star energy, even though it is Aquarius. Oh, so we talking about knowing, feeling, and Queen of Swords could be, it could be any of the air signs, but I forget which one it is most pronounced to be, if that's also Aquarius or Gemini or Libra, maybe Libra. So we're speaking to balance there, but a lot of air and water nonetheless. So, but that gives way to your thoughts, your emotions, and also your communication or expression of all of those elements. And certainly not being in any, oh Lord, certainly not being at any, stuck at any impasse about it. You know, this is energy that's very trustworthy of what they feel, what they sense, what they can deduct logically of all of that sensibility, and that has still, even with the star card, like a grounded response in that regard. You know, not acting out of emotion impulsively or exclusively, not acting out of logic in a calloused way or in an apathetic way, but literally bringing those two together. And that's probably the reason for the move forward with the Six of Swords, like somebody definitely giving way to that unification in spirit and truth within one being here with the Two of Cups. But what that ultimately does, though, is definitely puts you in an emotionally available space for productive partnerships of any sort. That's the key right there. And it's funny because I started off by saying it wouldn't necessarily happen by just one, but I guess I stand corrected to some degree. Not so much that if you're in a partnership and where one changes, it's automatically that the other, what in the world, hold on one second, that it's automatically, a lot of distractions going on here. What the heck? Oh, that's just Xfinity asking for a survey. Good Lord. I was saying that sometimes when one, not so much, is there a guarantee anyway that if one person evolves in a certain way, will that transfer over to the other or be make a direct impression? Perhaps, but not guaranteed. But in this regard, whatever changes may occur or evolution happens within a person does have a positive impact on what they attract. So in that way, it does work, for sure. And I'm feeling it's more of that, or even just being somewhat of a beacon of change and transformation, like an inspiration of that. It could be that as well. But with the Two of Cups, it feels like there's some type of reciprocation here, or some benefit to self on account of this transition. So all of those could be true. That maybe in a way that you've learned to evolve your practical and spiritual nature has become a beacon of light and an inspiration for others to, take that journey or cross over, or that is a beacon in a way that others are attracted to want to be connected, associated, co-creative, maybe procreative with you, all of that good stuff. But either way, it feels decent. It actually feels better than decent. It feels pretty powerful. And I feel like here, what's being left behind is probably a season in which maybe you didn't necessarily feel trustworthy of yourself, or you may have felt, as I said before, pulled in two directions where maybe your logical mind took precedence sometime over the spiritual and vice versa, or you were unsure as to what should lead the way, if either at all at times. And this is what, that can definitely be mentally exhausting, which would certainly be well assured to leave behind, meaning to cross over into peaceful and calmer waters, to leave this indecision. It feels it's more than just indecision though. When with the Two of Swords in this regard, it just feels like just be feeling unsure of your, what it is? It's like, maybe not so much unsure, but she's blindfolded here. So it's like someone that has all the faculty again and facility that would prove to themselves that they are trustworthy. They may even have the evidence of past experiences to know, I can trust my senses, I can trust my logic, I can trust my intuition, I can trust what I see, that of which I perceive and deduct meaning. I can trust that I'm a grounded, reasonable person, to use all of these senses respectively to make progressive movements forward, advancements forward. But not necessarily having I don't know if I already kind of said this, but not having the evidence of it, like the receipts, in a way that is 100% affirming. Maybe once upon a time that was necessary for someone to have in order for them to proactively trust themselves, is what I'm trying to get to. like a certain evidence, or like something being more evidential of their capacity to trust themselves may have been, I would say, more so discounted for themselves than it was even necessary for it to be counted on, which leads me to the point here of untrustworthiness, and then finding renegotiating or reestablishing trust and commitment and agreement with yourself that you actually never really needed. We got the high priestess here, and then the star, which is that Aquarius knowing, and then we have the Queen of Swords, who does have foresight, and does have insight. So whatever it was that may have projected to someone that they may need to second guess what they know to be true or what they can trust of their knowing, has been released in the healing process in this transition. So, do I need to say more than that? Yeah, and it's been an important process, because you could have all the faculty in the world to do a thing, to exercise an ability, a power, whatever, but without being secured in that assertion, you could kind of be stifled, and it could actually keep you held back from progressive movement in the way that your senses are actually opening the way for you to be progressive and to advance. So someone had to release some, perhaps, insecurity, or what is this Two of Swords? I need something else for that. It's something else for me, this Two of Swords. Like almost, I'll tell you what it feels like. I know but it's something here that I want to get before I start pulling cards, and it could take a whole nother turn, because you know how it goes. But it's something here about someone that always possessed a certain gifting, or some innate ability. And it feels like, the possession of that is something that wasn't necessarily comparable to others. Not that anything should be, but if you're looking for it to be, or particularly looking for it to be validated or approved, affirmed, accepted, any of those things, you'd probably be waiting for the rest of your life to receive that from the outside in. So it took someone a great deal of kind of finding that healing here of that approval for themselves, and that, what is it, that approval, and it's another word, acceptance. It's something else. Approval, acceptance, it's another word I'm looking for here. I guess validation, but they had to find that for themselves in order to fully activate the totality of the senses that they clearly already possess, but not just to activate it for the purposes of knowing it exists, but to activate it for the purposes on which it is possessed, which is to move forward. and also to move forward and to be a beacon of inspiration for how others can access that level of star power within their own being, and also be an attractive force for those that you can then, not even just those, but anything that would properly synergize with that life force, to then expand upon it. So it's like somebody was really holding themselves back, is what I'm sensing here. And then finally, until they weren't. And now here we are. Interesting. Knight of Wands. I'm gonna get another one, because I know I didn't get very far, so I know it's gonna be the same card on the bottom. Knight of Wands. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm not taking all these, but let's just take a look. Okay, here's the Ten of Swords, the Queen of Wands, the Five of Swords, and the Chariot. Everything that I was saying, this is like that possession of power here, all the embodiment of someone's senses in totality, and it being activated and asserted in the Queen of Wands energy. The Ten of Swords could be, especially sandwiched here like this, it could be outside influence and resistance. It could even be internal resistance and self-sabotage, as I was saying, like somebody not really trusting themselves because they were looking to be affirmed in a certain way that would almost give them permission and authority to operate in their supreme capacity of creativity, whatever that is, uniquely for whomever I'm talking to, because it's certainly different for everyone, but it's something that is innate, it's supreme, and it's also superior with the Queen of Swords, like superior in a sense, like not better than others, but whatever it is that someone does with the Queen of Swords in this mix, it's on a top tier level. You know, it's like almost crazy to second guess yourself at the Two of Swords, to like really question your judgment and be cautious in your decision making, and be careful about your commands or demands, you know, because that's the last thing that the Queen of Wands is too cautious to manifest. It's like she sees it, she wants it, it is so. Whatever the object of shoot, I'm almost saying attack, but it's not attack, like the object of the territory is a possession, I'll say, in the highest frequency though, because it could be a goal, it could be again, like an advancement in your own personal development. But whatever it is that the Queen of Wands idealizes to possess, she has the courage, the confidence, and the capability not only to seize it and capture it, but even more so with the Queen of Wands, to attract, which brings back to this Two of Cups energy here, that something had to be purified by way of your confidence to pronounce your innate abilities, or something is being purified in that regard, so that you can do it without a second thought, you know, and certainly without inhibition, which is definitely on brand for us stepping into Leo season. Main character energy, where you're not concerned about being accepted, about being understood, about even really being entertaining, even though you may naturally be so. Like, everything is on your terms, more or less, or in this case, between you and the supreme ordinance that you submit to, but certainly nothing less, nothing less. So therefore, at the Two of Swords, you wouldn't be bound by indecision or personal distrust, or insecurity, or apprehension. That's the word. Like almost being apprehensive to express yourself or express your nature out of fear for being misunderstood or rejected, or criticized or judged or any of that stuff. That doesn't even exist in this energy here, even though the ambition, the efforts against that energy may persist. It's not very well absorbed by the Queen of Wands. Like, somehow she transcends, this is the most fearless queen of them all. If the Queen of Wands is the most logical and, intelligent, certainly the Queen of Wands is ambitious. So to have those two characteristics online, it's like, what could you have to be apprehensive about? What is there to be shy about? What is there to be like reclusive about? Insecure, basically insecure about. You're going to charge ahead in whatever it is that you do, and here it is, even with the Knight of Wands. This is almost like blind ambition, almost too, like, overly ambitious. Certainly not too careful, like, again, giving way to that energy of you see it, you conquer it. But with the Queen of Wands, it's just like with a level of also maturity and like self-control as well, because it's like every territory is not necessarily yours to conquer per se, but the ones that are, or the one that is, it's no question. It's no questions asked. It's like forward march type of energy. Justice. I'm gonna take this one out. Oh, look at the King of Swords under the deck. Now I was trying to shuffle for one card here, but I wanted to really take from the bottom, but I just knew it would be the same where we had left off. So we got the Justice card here. Yeah, and that gives way to it being a justified approach and or response to life. Like, you've earned it. You've earned your stripes. You've earned the right to operate in a certain authority at this point in time, which is why you're literally being ushered across the way into it, like almost through over to some new beginning or new realization of yourself by way of this assertion of yourself. Yeah. But it's justified with the Justice card. Like, it's all fair, it's all sanctioned in spirit and in truth. Like, there's nothing that's been done. Like, even the ultra ambition here with the Knight of Swords is sanctioned, because coupled with that Queen of Wands energy, you can be that like that tenacious, because you have the wisdom of your experiences that temper that effort. It's not just flying off the seat of your pants or following any reckless impulse. It's very directive, it's very focused, but it's like being all in though, like leaving nothing to the imagination, leaving no crumbs on the table, not holding back for anyone in particular, not being careful anybody's feelings per se, or certainly not looking for any round of applause or approval. Approval, that was the other word I was trying to find when I was saying uh, acceptance. Is approval, something about approval. It's like once upon a time, approval was the setback, because the way in which you may have approved of yourself and had the evidence to do so, somehow it didn't seem like it was enough. You know, like, who am I almost to approve of myself? I may actually need someone else to give me that stamp, you know, the go ahead, the green light. But someone finally has gotten over that need and that need and that like that yearning, you know, because I mean, as human beings, we all want to feel accepted and understood and included and even approved of, especially when we're doing things that are so intimate to our spiritual or energetic being. It's a very vulnerable space to assert yourself, because you don't have any reference point of you know, like you don't have any reference of acceptance or that you're doing it right. You know, any point of reference is what I'm trying to say. Like, you can't really have that, especially as the star, because it's your own unique path. So it's like, well, then where do you get that approval? Where do you get that validation if it literally can't come from anything outside of you, only from your supreme being? And somebody, maybe you, had to learn that that was enough in order to be able to trust it and move in the authority of that identity. This is really good. I love it. And the King of Swords now is really the proactive assertiveness, you know, being not passive, but almost aggressive to some degree. Like, no shade, but the difference between here, the Queen of Swords, a female CEO, and a masculine CEO, hear me out, is more on account of the projections of our society that pronounces or makes the impression of response. Because as a female, let's start here, King of Swords, there's no inhibition really usually for masculine energy. The societal order of things is a patriarchal world in which the masculine assumes authority, assumes a certain position of power by the merit of his intelligence, his talents, his expertise, his did I say intelligence? I think I may have already. Whatever it is, his brand. And sometimes, honestly, let's keep it real, even void of all of that, there's still an assumption of power and position, like to almost feel an entitlement to it, because that's just how things are set up, right? In this world, at least right now. So it doesn't take much for an energy and this power and this frequency to assert themselves confidently, you know, feeling secure with all they know and what they're empowered to express. The feminine CEO has a lot more red tape to get through, usually, socially, societally, you know, all of the things, you know, that ultimately are conditionings of our reception to the masculine versus the feminine energy, and therefore even affect our personal conditioning. So that could be the reason for the Two of Swords as well, is that as a feminine energy, whether you're masculine or whether you're a woman or a man, you know, this could pertain, because you could have a masculine more in his femininity or more inclined to it, that could also experience the same frequency of being a bit more reserved and not as aggressive, not as assertive, all of that. And the feminine energy could be the opposite, that could be absolutely aggressive and assertive, even way outside of her feminine force. Either way, I'm speaking to the evolution here of someone that may have been apprehensive, again, very careful to assume certain liberties and inflections of power, even with they got the same sword now. There's just two different energies, but they got the same sword of truth. But on account of how the feminine energy is perceived and accepted and received, sometimes can come with a different layer of baggage that one would have to kind of break through, unpack, release, heal from, so on and so forth, even come to a balance and act to still stay in her feminine force while still exercising assertiveness. Because sometimes what also happens is with feminine leaders, they feel they have to be imbalanced in their femininity and more on the masculine side just to survive, let alone to be taken seriously and respected, so there's all of that too. But what I'm coming to terms with basically with this King of Swords here is that someone has earned the right and authority, no matter their sexual orientation, to assert themselves with no inhibitions, because the King of Swords is like expert in his field. Again, as I was saying here, still all the same faculties and facility, but with a different approval rating here. You get to exercise your rights of power as if you have a ready-made, already established approval that you would if you were a masculine, or whatever, or without that built-in, like almost like reactive response of carefulness, or what's the word that I found? What was it? Like apprehension to assert your power. It's all sanctioned here. Yes, you can trust yourself, others can trust you, and there's really no more evidence needed than that, quite honestly. There's no other stamp of approval necessary, especially when you're working in the righteous right of your jurisdiction, like your brand of expertise or your special knowledge, or your lane. Ultimately, you're in your lane, you are authorized to drive as fast as you want, pretty much, or as slow as you want to that point as well. It's on you. I'm getting the sense of like somebody being the, it's like you only have, this came back out. You only have yourself to answer to, or somebody still or deferring to supreme self, but that's it. That's it. What's on the bottom here? Yeah. Affirmed in your spiritual nature. Very much so feminine. Yeah, what's this given? It's like somebody, let's see what's on the bottom. With the Four of Wands, balance and harmony again. What is this? What is given to, as I was kind of saying before, it feels like it's doubling down on being secured in your feminine force, not feeling like you have to overcompensate to compete or to protect, even to advance in this male-ordered society or patriarchal society that we live in. that you don't have to conform to those constraints or even sacrifice that pure essence of yourself, that it can be just as empowering and powerful in your advancement. Again, how I started this could be in relationships, professionally, creatively, in a range of different arenas, as anything else, you know? That's what I'm feeling like, and it feels like with the Two of Swords, it's really, again, coming to terms with that, you know, that you don't have to reach across or dip into any more of your masculinity to make up for who you may be innately as a feminine for any other purpose other than as you see fit to do so, you know, by your own discernment, by your own objective, you know, what is most progressive for the situation or circumstance at hand, but not by force, you know, because I'm seeing with the Two of Pentacles, somebody being at a being a bit insecure, unsure about which side of themselves to lead with. This Four of Wands says that you have the capacity to lead with both, but not even because you have to be overly sensitive to incorporating both energies, like I gotta be just as masculine as I am feminine, you know, but because the balance that I'm sensing is just knowing when to turn what on and what off. You know, you could be someone that's very feminine, that's very, you know, like that just is what it is, and you are activated in that power, and it almost never really turns off, but that there are certain attributes that are in the masculine energy that you also possess that synergize well with your whole being. Here with the Two of Cups, like this renegotiation here again, it's not a matter of it being perfectly balanced, like an equal amount of this, 50% of me is masculine, 50% of me is feminine, even though anatomically kind of sort of is like that, but energetically, even spiritually, it may not be like that. And you shouldn't feel any insecurity or inhibition if it's not, and certainly no pressure to conform or transform to fit any other particular mold where you would assume that it could be threatening if you aren't, if that's making sense. It's like your feminine energy is, in this case, with all this feminine power, we've only seen the King of Swords under the deck. Right now, it's saying to me that you may want to lead with that force. It may be the most empowering aspect of you, as opposed to what's projected to you is the power driver, you know, which would be more of the masculine force, to be aggressive, to be assertive, to be dominant, to be like a, you know, a go-getter, cutthroat, you know, a conqueror. Yeah, but the feminine energy, as with, back to that Queen of Wands, is effective in all of that by her attractiveness, her attraction, her magneticism can get the job done just as well, if not better, than all of that proactive force fuel. So don't be afraid to lean into that, particularly, specifically leaning into your intuition, because that actually gives the feminine force an edge in a male-dominated world, because that's innate to us, to sense our way through decisions and discernments, where it doesn't, sometimes it's not something that you can absolutely make an evidential case for, but something in you knows, like, nah, I ain't gonna take that deal, or no, this doesn't feel like the right partnership, the right fit for me, the right relationship, the right move, the right job, whatever. Like, you can sense it before you sometimes know why you're sensing. Lead with that. That we need more of that in the world, where people are taking the time to feel their feelings, which is our first line of defense. And that, like I said, the insight that leads to more objective decision making when you use it with logic, as opposed to the masculine energy that in this form, as the Knight of Wands, will just, run out and do it, run out and conquer, move on impulse or compulse, or, lust and ambition and drive and machismo and go, 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 get. It's good that you have something different to add. It's necessary and it's needed. And it feels like I'm speaking more to, like I said, than just the advancement of yourself, but of course, Seven of Swords. Let me see where this is heading, because let me see first, but this could just be, being extremely cunning and skillful. What's the right word I'm looking for? Like calculated, and just as, what's the word that I want? Let me see where we at first. Oh, well, maybe not. Because then we got the Five of Pentacles. Let me see what's on the bottom. Oh, Ten of Pentacles. It feels like I said, on sight and on first sensation, I didn't really get the typical Seven of Swords energy that I usually get, which is somebody being deceptive and all types of stuff, like bad stuff, not good stuff. There's something here that I'm getting about, how can I say this? It's like, okay, and most ladies kind of know this. They kind of know, any gentleman that may be listening may not necessarily, or they may, I'll just say it. You know how it is as a female, right? Where you're in a particular relationship or connection, and this is also part of our conditioning, as the submissive species, where we've learned to kind of submit our power to superior forces, whether it be actually or just assumed, whether it be the masculine energy or just someone but particularly I'm gonna speak about it from feminine to masculine. Like, say you're in a relationship, right? And real primitive, that the way you're being led, say you're in the car and that we're going the wrong way. 9 times out of 10, a more demure, submissive type of feminine is either going to just let her man see for himself because he wouldn't listen, or he's not as receptive to direction or guidance or whatever, if that is the case, because not every man is like that, but this is just an example. You either want to let them go ahead and see, let them go off the rails and have to turn around and it's like, okay, all right, we're back on track. All right, cool. Or you'll find a very soft and diplomatic way, almost a careful way to correct, so as to almost be gentle with their ego or their pride or whatever. I'm not saying it's right, but every woman knows what can relate to this, whether they err on the side of of operating in that function and frequency, or against it, and what that can also lead to if you have a certain type of man that doesn't like to be told stuff or likes to move on their own accord. So I'm getting something here where it's like the feminine force is almost like leading creation to sanctuary, to healing, to new age, to this new agreement, this new realization of life, subtly, carefully, almost submissively, but still somehow taking the charge and the reins too, like almost leading from behind, which is something that I had a man advise me to once upon a time when I was in the Momentum Education program. I had advice from a man that I particularly respected, more or less, and he gave me this insight of the ideal of leading from behind, not necessarily wanting to, charge ahead and be ahead of the ranks, but to subtly kind of like progress the agenda from a back seat almost, which that never left me, so and it's funny that it's coming up here. It never left me, but it's not something that I've thought about in a long time, but it's kind of still ingrained in me as a little nugget, of wisdom, of which I do try to implement, because people in general, not even just men or women, don't typically like to be told what to do. But we all want the best outcome, usually, at least for ourselves, if no one else. And there's something here societally where that's where the cunningness is coming from, and almost like sneaky and calculated, and calculated for a purpose, though, that I feel the feminine force is functioning in, to do what is ultimately best for the greatest good of all, in a way that causes the least dissension or disturbances as possible. Meaning to guide boyfriend or hubby back onto the right path. Or, I think our exit was so-and-so, like back there. Or I think the GPS said to make the second left. Or, like a gentle kind of guidance and direction. Because we're void of pride and ego, most of us, and this is the part about leading with your femininity. Catching more flies, as they say, or bees with honey. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is that we all come out of this oppressive, deficient state of creativity and into this exuberant, plentiful, prosperous state of being that's not just effective for one to the other, masculine or feminine, but for our babies and our babies' babies, and so on and so forth. I feel like the feminine has the charge to kind of see and lead that revolution in the direction that it needs to go, and a great deal of the resistance that, if any at all, that she has is to, number one, again, overcome that preconceived conditioning that would allow you to be apprehensive to that position of power, to asserting it. And so also the delicateness of the male ego, of which is still coming into order and submission to the universal order himself, holistically. So that definitely gives a new texture to the Two of Cups. As I was saying before, it's like, well, I don't know if one definitely affects the other. I guess, again, it actually does. Maybe in a very sneaky, covert type of way, and certainly not effective for everyone and in every situation. And even not necessary for everyone in every situation, because there are a lot more masculines now that are actually being more contented and more aligned with their feminine energies in a way where their ego is not so delicate, where they don't mind being led as long as it's in truth, or as long as it's in the progress of of advancement and prosperity. So there's that too. So generally everything is changing up, but there's something about feminine energy still taking the lead in ways that could be challenging still, as advanced as we are, as at least as we seem to be, and as necessary as it is apparent that it is, even if it's not a matter of taking charge, but at least to allow feminine force to be just as empowered to support the mission, to work through the mission as the masculine energy, to even take a little bit of the pressure off of the masculine side and give a different perspective on how we can all advance. It's something about that. I like that. That's and it's bringing us out of this for those that want to come out, right up under here with this crossover from turbulent times to more peaceful and calmer waters. We get to do it together, and certainly by way of allowing a feminine to operate in her femininity full force and a masculine to operate in his masculinity full force, but there being a grace for the way in which we productively align, of the way in which we must align together to get to that destination. It doesn't even get to happen one way or the other anymore. We've tried it the patriarchal way, and we know that that's not it. Yeah, that's dead. It's 10 of Swords. It's sabotage. It's great casualties to creation and great cost to creation when we're just doing it the aggressive and take everything and burn the village type, the Neanderthal way. No shame, man. But I'm just saying, judgment on that, because it's already proven what it yields at this point. We know that there's a better way. And the better way still is not only a woman can do it, or I don't need no man, I could do it by myself. I'd rather not, I just want to be respected and appreciated for my contribution to the mission. That's all. Given the respect due, given the space and opportunity to operate how I do best without judgment, without feeling the need to be approved. As a matter of fact, that it's my righteous right as a woman of power and integrity and prestige in my own embodiment to make my own impression on creation in a way that is valuable and progressive without having to incur interferences and resistance and sabotage and, systematic pitfalls and so on and so forth. It's what has to change in order for us to progress and to be preserved as a species of humanity, whatever that even means anymore. All right, so okay, or else, exactly, Tower. And this could also be the shock and awe of what, of how this judgment, perhaps against those who are resistant to this progression and this evolution, is playing out and will play out. A shock to them first and foremost, and with the reestablishment of societal order by way of universal ordinance, it will be a shock to the senses. It will incite an adjustment for many. Like I said, for feminine energy to be more comfortable and not have to overcompensate for just who she is innately, and not to be insecure or feeling apprehensive about that, or needing to shapeshift to exist and survive, and for masculine energy to kind of give way for that existence in order for advancement, and honorably so, not opportunistically, like, oh yeah, I'll let the woman lead, and then we get to a point and then it's like, kick her ass out again. Or like, kind of like, what was that, World War II, when all the men were out at war. I think it was World War II, one or two, but I think it was two. All the men were out, all deployed to defend the country. And then the women had to come to work, and they were happy to work. They were, and was killing it, like really contributing, and first of all, in a capacity in which they weren't given the liberty to before, but in a way that was extremely imperative to the advancement of the nation, and also the preservation and protection of the nation. Many of them were making planes and weapons and all types of like typically male dominated occupations that would have been would have been empty, unfulfilled otherwise. But then when the men came back, not all women were equally welcome to stay in that workforce. Some of the, the really strong ones that, again, that could that more or less could shapeshift to preserve themselves in those environments did. But a lot of women were more or less expected to get back to the home and take care of the family. Do you think all the women that did that wanted to? Probably not. A lot of them probably enjoyed their independence after receiving it, after feeling valuable, feeling like they were making a contribution to this country and more than just rearing children and cooking meals, But some didn't have, at least there wasn't space enough made for them to have that welcome wholeheartedly. I imagine, I don't know for sure, well, I know for sure that a lot of women went back into the home, but I don't know for sure if it was on account of literally being pushed back out of the workforce and back home, or conditions being so constrained as such that they kind of felt like they had no choice. Either way, it's like that wouldn't be a fair experience as well, to allow the feminine force to get us so far, as we are destined to go. I declare it, I prophesy it, that the feminine energy and her full power potential is really going to be significant in the advancement of creation now, if allowed to be so. And she will be allowed, because as the Queen of Wands, she won't take no for an answer, right? But after we get there, there needs to be a maintenance of this camaraderie, that Four of Wands, harmony, balance, mutual respect, and deference, submission that has been earned at this point. Well overdue, most would say. I know you would. Yeah, it will not be tolerated to operate in this frequency now or later with the Five of Swords, to then go back into, win at all cost mode, or, trying to defeat or overthrow or overpower. That will backfire tremendously for anyone that perpetuates that energy and that spirit, and anyone that even allows themselves to surrender to it. You will be overrun if you don't take your rightful position that is due to you, that you've earned, that you have even been appointed to at this point. If you allow it, it'll be so. But as for the rest of us that are looking to, to see creation evolve in prosperity and peace, and for masculine and feminine energies to be empowered on the same frequency for a united purpose, it is so. It shall be. It is so with the Judgment card here. So yeah, that was interesting. Definitely gonna leave it there, but you know, if there's something coming to a culmination here with the Judgment card, and it's the end of something that has been unjustified and hasn't been very favorable and productive for anyone, you know, whether they realize it or not. Because as I've said often, the way in which the world is going now hasn't even benefited the dominating force that has facilitated. Not really, not holistically. Even they're finding themselves, you know, reclaiming the side of them that they have ultimately disregarded, that feminine force. So from the inside out, the outside in, there will be a balance and a synergy. There must be. So says the creator of all. Perhaps because that was what it was supposed to be from the gate before it was corrupted. All right, so cheers to that. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Thanks for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with